Welcome back, Falcons. We are going to start Unit 7 with a review of some algebra concepts, including ratio and proportion. We'll start with the definition of ratio, and that is a comparison of values. Comparison of values. And we can say that a ratio says how much of one thing there is compared to another. How much of one thing there is compared to another. So for example, if I had, let's just draw some boxes here. I'm gonna draw 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes, and I shaded in 3 of those, right? So I have 3 that are shaded and 1 that is unshaded. That is a ratio of 3 to 1, shaded to unshaded. And it's gonna be expressed there, you see with that colon, those are those 2 dots. So shaded to unshaded. And that's how we would express the ratio, 3 shaded things compared to 1 unshaded thing. So a special note, we're gonna put this over here in our question reflection column, that ratios can be scaled up. Can be scaled up. So I'm gonna draw a similar picture. We'll start with the same 3 shaded, 1 unshaded, and then I'm gonna double that. Let's say I doubled that and now I have 6 shaded and 2 unshaded. So originally we had a 3 to 1 ratio. When we doubled it, it's now a 6 to 2 ratio, but you see how that can be scaled up in that manner. So for our examples, we're going to use these to help us calculate the ratio, the measure of angles in certain situations. So to start, we have the ratio of 2 complementary angles, and we need to find each angle. So some information I want to underline and highlight here. 2 complementary angles, that tells me it's going to be 90 degrees. And then we have the ratio of 3 to 7. And we have to find each angle. So we're doing 2 different calculations here. But we're gonna start by setting up our equation. So I know that it's 3 times plus 7 times is going to give me 90 degrees. Then we're just going to solve that using our algebra skills. 3x's plus 7x's is 10x. And then when we divide both sides by 10, we get x equals 9. So then we take that 9, we don't stop here. We're gonna take that 9 and plug it in to actually solve for the measures of the angles. So I have 3 times our x of 9 is 27. And then I have 7 times 9, which gives me 63. And these are in degrees, so make sure you include that unit. That's gonna be your answer, guys. So that is our answer. I'm gonna go ahead and box that in with my pretty pink. And if I wanted to check myself and make sure my algebra was on point, I would just add those 2 and it should give me the original 90, which it does. It checks out, so we're good there. Go ahead and make sure that you get all of that down for example 1. Pause your video and try go ahead and do the you try problem over here. Okay, hopefully you had enough time. Take a look here. This is how mine looks. We had the ratio of 2 supplementary angles, so we know that they should add up to 180. That ratio was 4 to 1, so we did 4x plus 1x, giving us 5x, and then our x was 36. We had to solve for each angle here, so we plugged that 36 in, got 144 and 36 to give us the 180. Hopefully everything looks good there. You guys can check your work as we move to the next example. Example 2, similar problem, but let's read on. The ratio of measures of the angles in a triangle is going to be 4 to 7 to 9. And we needed to find each angle. We're going to find each angle here. So we have to reach back in our memory bank and remember the triangle sum theorem. Triangle sum theorem. And that's going to tell me that the sum of the angles in a triangle are going to equal 180 degrees. So that's where we're starting for here. So I've got 4x's plus 7x plus 9x to give me the 180. And we're just going to go through and solve this using our algebra skills. 4 plus 7 is 11. 11 plus 9 is 20. 20x equals 180. And then I solve for x by dividing by 20. And that should give me an x of 9. Now remember, we're not done. Just finding the 9 isn't enough here. We have to take it a step further. So we're going to go ahead and plug that 9 back in for x for each of those calculations to figure out each of the angles. 4 times 9 is 36 degrees. 7 times 9 is 63 degrees. 9 times 9 is 81 degrees. So those would be our answers. And again, to check ourselves, we would just want to total those up and make sure that it summed equaled 180, and it does, so it checks out. Go ahead and get that down. You can pause your video and do the you try problem. Okay, so now I'm going to reveal my answers. Here we go, guys. On this one, we did the ratio measuring, the ratio of the measures for a triangle 11 to 2 to 5. We had to find the largest angle here, so that's a special note that we have to make sure we mark or write down. 11x plus 2x plus 5x gave me the 180. 18x equals 180. Divide by 18 on both sides, and we should get x equals 10. Since we were looking for the largest angle, I looked for the largest number in these ratios, and that was 11. So 11 times 10 is 110, and there we go. We're all set for that one. Go ahead and check your work on that as we move to the next problem. Example 3 coming up. So for example 3, we're doing the ratio of the sides. Okay, so we're not talking angles, we're talking sides. Sides of a triangle is 2 to 8 to 9, and the perimeter is 76 inches. So I have to think about that word perimeter and remember that that means to add the sides. So we're going to be doing the same thing. If the perimeter totals 76, then all of these side measures will also total 76. So 2x plus 8x plus 9x equals 76. And then we're going to work our algebra just as we have done previously. 2 plus 8 is 10. 10 plus 9 is 19. I've got 19 x's. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 19, and that gives me x equals 4. We have to find the measure of each side, so we're going to plug that 4 in all 3 spots. 2 times 4 is 8. The unit of measure here, be very careful, is in inches. So we want to express that with our answer. 8 times 4 is 32. And 9 times 4 is 36. So then we would box that in as our answer, right? Get my pretty pink pen. That's our solution, and to make sure that we're on point, we can always double check ourselves. I'm going to add these up, total it, and make sure that it does give me the 76, which it does, and we are all good. So go ahead and pause your video, do the you try problem, and come back to check your answer. Okay, hope you had enough time. Let's take a quick look. Again, this one was looking for the sides of the triangle with the given ratio of 10 to 15 to 6. If the perimeter is 217, we had to find the shortest side. So we set it up similar fashion, went ahead and solved for x. We get the x equals 7. Same as that last problem when we were only looking for the largest. Here we're only looking for the shortest. So I picked the smallest number, and that was 6. 6 times 7 gave me 42. I wrote degrees here. This is a side measure, so we're gonna change that. Let me erase. And we're in meters, so that's gonna be a little m. There you go. So make sure you include the correct unit of measure on your answer when finding those solutions. If you have any questions, please be sure to reach out to your teacher, ask a friend, use your resources, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Part 2 of our 7-0 review of proportion notes. It's going to start with definition of proportion, and the definition is a statement that two ratios, we just talked about that, are equal. Okay, and that's going to look like this, guys. I'm going to put my example up here. If I have A over B, we're going to say that's equal to C over D. You could also, to actually put some numbers on it, let's say I had that ratio of, 3 to 1. Remember our little drawing that we did in the last video? 3 to 1 was equal to 6 to 2, right? So that's how the ratios can look as fractions, so to speak. So with this, we're going to go way back, pull out some cross multiplication property. So in any proportion, if you have A over B equal to C over D, then you can use cross multiplication, right? Then A times D will be equal to B times C. So we're going to take a look at an example, and then you guys will go ahead and give that a try, and we'll find our solutions in just a moment. I'm going to start here with this one, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I've got x times 2. I know I can write that as 2x equals 4 times 7. I'll go ahead and write it like that with the product dot, just so we can see that multiplication. 4 times 7 is going to give me 28. And then we would divide both sides by 2 to get that x equals 14. So I'm just going to box that in as my solution. Next up, there's your you try problem. Go ahead and pause your video and then give it a try. Okay, we'll do this one real quickly. So I'm going to cross multiply. That gives me 3x. Cross multiply gives me 88. And then we do that division piece. So remember, we're dividing by 3 on both sides. And when I look at this, it doesn't give me an even number. So in the calculator, when we plug that in, we're going to get a decimal. We'll round to 2 decimals. We can say that it's approximately, give it the little squiggle, equals 29.33. Or you can express your answer as a fraction. Either would be acceptable. So then I will go ahead and box that in as my solution as well. Let's look at it with some algebraic expressions. Here, I'm going to put a parentheses around that 2x minus 9. So we're using the cross multiplication property, and we're also we'll see that we use a lot more algebra in this. When I multiply 20 times this whole thing, I want to write it like this. 20 parentheses 2x minus 9, close parentheses, equals, and then that'd be 10 times 9. Squeeze it in there. So now we're going to pull out our good old distributive property. 20 times 2x is going to give me 40x. 20 times 9 will give me 180. 10 times 9 is 90. Then we add the 180 to both sides. So I'm going to end up with 40x equals 270. Divide both sides, and we'll see what happens here, guys. We're going to end up with another fraction. Now it would be 270 over 40. I'm just going to drop those zeros since we know that both of those would be divisible by 10, so I don't need to write those. Or when I plug it in my calculator, I end up with 6.75. So those are your two options for answers there. Let me box that in so it kind of stays in the same place. Go ahead and take a look over that. Make sure you're checking your work. Pause your video, go ahead and give the you try problem a shot, and we'll tackle that together when we come back. Okay, hopefully you had enough time to solve that. I'm going to put parentheses around it as I did before. 18 times 3x plus 4 equals 12 times 15. Then it's just a multi-step algebraic equation. 18 times 3, that's going to give me 54x. 18 times 4 is 72. 12 times 15, that's going to be 180. And then we're solving for x. So I will subtract 72 from both sides. And then we divide both sides by 54, and I'm gonna get x equals 2. That's a nice round number. And that's our answer for the second you try problem. Go ahead and check your work. Make sure everything looks good, and we'll move on to example 3. Almost done, guys. So I have two different algebraic expressions here. I'm gonna do parentheses on both, right? Keep those together. So then when I do my first cross multiply, I have 3 times x minus 11 equals 18 times x minus 20. We'll start on the left-hand side. I'm going to distribute that 3. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 11 would be negative 33. So I'm just going to write minus 33. Distribute the 18, that gives me 18x. Distribute the 18, and that's going to give me a minus or negative 360. Now we need to move all of our x's to one side and move all of our constants to one side. I like to do this in one step. If you do this in multiple steps, that's perfectly fine also. I'm going to move my x's to the right because I have more over there. 18's the bigger number, so that's going to cancel. But that means my constants have to go over to the left, so I'm going to add 360 to both sides. Remember, just keep it nice and lined up, and then that way you come out with a clean little equation here, and you're just combining your constants, combining your variables. So 360 minus 33, I know sometimes we get hung up with the adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. So just you have more positives. 360 minus 33 is going to be 327. And then 18x minus 3x is going to give me 15x. So then when we pop that into the calculator, because it doesn't divide nice and even, and we have kind of a larger number here, I'm going to end up with a decimal. And that's okay. Sometimes we have decimals as our answers. And 21.8 would be my final answer on that problem. Go ahead and take a moment. Make sure that you have example 3 written down and that you see the process of moving to solve for x. Pause your video, give the you try problem a shot, and we'll come back in just a few seconds. Okay. Hopefully you paused and you had enough time to work through that one. Start in the same fashion. I put parentheses around, and then we're gonna set it up. So I've got 7 times, let me draw a little line here, don't get confused. 7 times x plus 16 is equal to 6 times 3x plus 3. Distribute your 7. That's the first step. So 7 times x is going to be 7x. And then 7 times 16, you can use your calculator if you need to. That's going to be a positive 112. 6 times 3, that's simple enough. We got 18x. 6 times 3 plus 18. And again, now we're just going to go through the process of moving the variable terms, moving the constant terms to solve for x. So once again, I have more x's on the right-hand side, so I'm just going to move that 7x so that it cancels. And I have these constants I need to move over here. That's gone. We look good there. So 112 minus 18 is going to give me 94. And then 18 minus 7 is 9. So I'm going to divide both sides by 9. And then we will, of course, get a decimal again. So we're going to have to use those rounding skills. We're going to round to 2 decimal points, and our answer should be 10.44. Well, approximately, because we're rounding. Go ahead, take a moment, make sure that you have that down. Look over your problems. If you have any questions or concerns, be sure to talk to your teacher. Ask a friend, use your resources, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.